Jesus was a rock star.
Daniel chapter 4, verses 18 and 19, and it says, Belshazzar, that was the dream that I had. He just told him this crazy dream, right? He was eating grass like a cow. He was living in the wilderness. It was just crazy. I, King Nebuchadnezzar, now tell me what it means, for none of the wise men of my kingdom can do so. In other versions, it says will do so, because the dream really wasn't that hard to interpret. You can go back and read it. I mean, it was crazy. But it was pretty obvious that it was not going to work out well for Nebuchadnezzar, and none of his wise men cared about him enough to tell him the truth. But you can tell me because the Spirit of the Holy God lives in you. Well, upon hearing this, Daniel, also known as Belshazzar, was overcome for a time, frightened by the meaning of the dream. Then the king said to him, Belshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream or by what it means. Well, he was alarmed because the king was famous for killing the messenger, man. It was a dangerous thing to tell the truth to the king. Dangerous, man. And he was upset about it. You know, he's Belshazzar, don't be alarmed. Yeah, right, don't be alarmed, you know, whatever. Then Belshazzar replied, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. So you look at verses 8 and 9. We talked about be ready, be available, and be humble. I want to tell you that you are also allowed when sharing bad news. Lastly, be ready, be available, be humble. That's how you earn the right to be heard, okay? Now when it's time to speak, number 2, you use tact, okay? Now look at what Daniel, who's his name again? Daniel. Belshazzar replied, and that's Daniel, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. See, he's using tact. He's saying, I've let out conversations before and say, you know what, I'm really nervous about this because I'm scared that you're going to get mad at me and we can't be friends anymore. But I just want you to know this is really hard for me to do, and I would not talk to you like this unless I really cared about you. And I've let out in conversations that way. So number 1, use tact. Number 2, be gentle and be firm. Be gentle because if you're abrupt, you're going to offend and they're not going to hear anything you say. You want to use every bit of tact and gentleness that you possibly can. You just can't overdo that, okay? Tact and gentleness. Use as much as you can. But then also be very, very firm. Don't water down the truth. Tell it like it is. Now, if you do that, they might get mad at you. I've had people stand up in restaurants yelling at me and walk out. I've lost some relationships. But I've learned something, that those people almost always come back. Why? Because they know they can trust me. The relationship is deepened on a level that is way deeper. And we're stronger because of it, our relationship. Now, people don't like hearing bad news. But if we share it with gentleness and tact, I can tell you some of the best friends in the world that I have, I've had to say some of the most scary things to them. And if I didn't care about them, I wouldn't have said it. It would have been really easy to keep my mouth shut. But my brother was in trouble. And nobody else in their world was going to say something. Nobody else in Belshazzar's world is going to say something. We can be known as the ones that people can trust. You can't, I won't tell you everything you like all the time, but you can trust me to tell you what I believe is right. Now, I'm not always right. I always think I'm right at the time, but I'm not always right. But you can trust me to always tell you what I think is right. And that's a really strong place to be. So my question for you today is, what have you put off? Who have you put off telling the truth to? Is somebody in your life needing truth told to them and you put it off? Now, if you haven't done, be ready, be available, be humble, and they don't have a safe place with you, don't even bother. You've got to build that relationship first so they know that they're living in a bucket of unconditional love. But after that is the case, is there somebody that you need to tell the truth to? Hey, may the Lord richly bless you, and hope to see you in church on Sunday.
Jesus was a rock star.